fast. Midnight Falls, or L'ura, will be the final boss of the March of Quel'danas raid. This is a 3-phase boss fight with an intermission between phases 1 and 2. On pull, watch the boss. It's going to flash a set of symbols: X, triangle, circle, T, or diamond. A set of players will then be marked by the same symbols and need to line up right to left based off the order of the symbols that flashed. So if triangle came first, that player needs to be furthest to the right, and if diamond came last, that player has to be furthest to the left. The boss will then create a beam, rotating around and hitting those players. As long as it hits all players in the right order, everything's fine. But if it hits a player out of order, it puts a big debuff on the party that's a likely raid wipe. These glaives appear around the boss, back away from it, and go between the glaives. They'll shoot out at angles, dealing big damage to anybody in their path. They'll then spin around the room, constantly needing to avoid these for the rest of the phase. A set of beams will appear around the boss. After delay, we'll start rotating around them. You need to rotate around following these beams to make sure you don't take damage. Safeguard Prism will create a bunch of adds around the boss that need to be interrupted twice to get rid of. After destroying them, a set of Midnight Crystals and Dawn Crystals will spawn. DPS need to burn down the Midnight Crystals, while healers heal the Dawn Crystals to full. Once a Dawn Crystal is healed up, players can pick them up and hold on to them. These are going to be needed for a later phase. On Heroic difficulty, anytime a player gets hit by an effect while they're holding on to one of the crystals, they'll create a set of soak zones around the room. Players need to go and stand in these, you cannot miss them. The tank mechanic puts 5 debuffs onto the current tank, and then it needs a tank swap. Just swap back and forth every time this debuff goes out for the rest of the fight. All the boss phases share health, and everything is time-based, so you're going to want to lust on pull and do as much damage as you can at the start. Once the boss runs out of energy, it enters into the intermission. The arena will go black, and it's going to be constant damage over time. Make sure to stay near your healers. Players will be marked with these star effects are on them. Make sure nobody's in your lines, and then stay still so players can get out of them. Giant beams will show up around the boss that you quickly have to sidestep out of. After the Total Eclipse channel finishes, the intermission phase will end, and it'll stun all players and suck them into the void. In the Void Realm, there's going to be these stars floating around the outside of the room, and a blue ring around the boss. If you leave outside of the blue ring, you're going to take massive damage and die very quickly. There's constant damage on all players, so healers need to be able to keep everybody topped off, stay nicely clumped if possible. Multiple players will be marked by beams. Point these beams at the stars around the outside of the group. 1 beam per star. There's going to be 3 sets of beams that go out, and you need to blast all of the stars. Any star left over at the end of this phase is going to do big stacking raid-wide damage, so you want to make sure all stars are destroyed if possible. After a star gets hit by a beam, it's going to radiate out towards the boss. After delay, it'll then create a beam between it and the boss itself. All players need to quickly sidestep out of, and the boss will suck those orbs into it. This will then do an explosion of raid-wide damage that healers need to have everybody topped off for. Rotate through the 3 sets of beams and blast all of the stars, making sure there's never more than 1 star left over at the end. On Heroic difficulty, each player that sends out a beam will create massive raid-wide damage, reduced by how many other people are hit by the same beam. So when you're pointing your arrows at the stars, make sure there's multiple players standing in each beam. After the 3rd set, it'll cast Dark Meltdown, pulling everyone towards the center, and then irradiating you outwards, leaving you into a black room. If there's a crystal on the ground near you, run forward and pick it up, and then try to group up all together. All players need to be within the light of one of the crystals. Players with crystals are going to have a new extra action button. When the boss teleports away and begins casting the Dark Archangel, 1 player needs to activate their extra action button, and all players then need to go and stand in the light left on the ground. After a big blast of damage, the boss will then radiate out a cone effect in that area, dropping a big void pool on the ground. All players should rotate in the designated direction to the next safe spot. A set of stars will spawn. After delay, they'll link together into a random constellation. You need to react quickly to this linkage to make sure you're not in the beam for very long. Or stay away from stars that are close together, making sure you're not going to get blasted. Each star links itself to the 2 nearest stars, so you can kind of get a sense of what the pattern is going to look like. After 3 sets of stars, it'll go back to doing that big blast attack. Another player with a crystal needs to drop the safe field on the ground, and all other players need to stand in it, eating the blast, and then rotating again. This phase is just going to be constantly rotating between this until you run out of stars, run out of the room on the ground, or kill the boss. On Heroic difficulty, in this final phase, fissures are going to show up around the room that crave the light. Players that are carrying the crystals need to go and stand in these fissures to make them go away. This is going to get harder as you run lower on players that have crystals available, and the final fissure likely has to be stood on by the entire group because it's going to be the only safe space to be able to stand. I hope with all these details, you're able to take down L'ura, Midnight Falls raid boss, in the March of Quel'danas raid. I'm Zesty Fresh at Zaza Games, and we'll catch you guys next time. Zaze.